YouTube? I'm back. Alright, as you can see, it's a nice sunny day. They say it's supposed to be about 100 degrees, so I'm going to have to do a lot of hydration, drink lots of water, and then I got to wash my clothes, because it's important to wash your clothes. Now, today's YouTube video, because I'm going to do 2 videos. I'm going to get back on to the self-improvement series, because that's not going to stop, because I want to keep my content new and fresh. No matter how bad player haters hate self-improvement, you're going to continue to get self-improvement videos. This is to finish up my I Like Women in the Gym series. Now, this one is something that people love to talk about in movies and television shows, and they love to talk about it on the internet. It's one of those stereotypes where they always say that when a black man gets rejected 10, 15, 20, or even 100 times as a desperate attempt, he'll seek out the most fattest white woman on the planet Earth because he's sexually frustrated 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And when he finally, after all the hard work and dedication he put in after 10, 15, 20 years, when he finally gets a girl, it's a fat white woman. And a lot of people say the only time a black man can even get the best quality woman is if he's rich and famous. Which famously on YouTube they will refer to that as looks, money, and status. Well, that's just one way to get beautiful, attractive white women of high quality that are 8s, 9s, and 10s. See, I'm making the video and I'm calling it Sex with White BBW Women I Like Hit the Gym, because it's to answer the questions of the stereotypes that they produce in movies and television, and what is real and what is considered fake. Now, let's start with the first one. A black man who goes to gyms like 24 Hour Fitness, LA Fitness, Planet Fitness, Gold's Gym, Club Bay, Club Onyx, or any fitness gym you possibly can think of. They go goat chasing in the gym thinking they're going to find a fat girl to mess with because they're easy to have sex with. I laugh at this stereotype because maybe if we take a time machine and maybe if we went back to the early 1950s, 60s, maybe mid-70s, or you can go as far as the 80s and some part of the 1990s, that probably would be true. That fat women that put on 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60 pounds of body fat and is between 200 to 260, or even worst case 300 pounds, you probably could argue would be easy to score with. But in present day 2019, that's just not the case. Well, what I've been witnessing and what I've been seeing is that if you're not physically sexually attractive, if you're not the guy that she sees in the movies and the television shows, it's going to be very hard for you to get the phone number and ask her out to lunch and dinner, or at least for a cup of coffee, let alone try to score a home run. That's what happens when some people watch too much television and too many Hollywood movies. They figure that because it's a movie or a television show, that they figure that because you're a black man that's sexually frustrated and you ain't been getting none for 5 years, 10, 15 years, that when you finally do score, they automatically make the assumption you get with a fat white woman because that's all you can get. That's the best you can get. First of all, most black men tend to get with a black woman that's from the ages of 18 to 27, and like I always say in my videos, to be nice, from the age of 18 to 29, that have a nice athletic body. Problem is, these women are so into what they see in the movies and the television shows that they don't want average or below average black men. And when I go into the gym, I see black men date fat white women, but it ain't like how the movies and the television shows depict it, okay? Now, Pain and Gain is probably the best prime example that we can use because it's a movie produced, written, and directed by Michael Bay. If you know Michael Bay, he did the Transformer films, which, those movies are terrible quality. I mean, yeah, the first one was pretty okay. The second one falls short of the first film. The third one tried its best, but it missed the mark. And the fourth one tried to be original, but again, it missed the mark. And then the fifth one, the fifth one and the sixth one didn't even convince anyone that it was Transformers. But my point is, he directed that movie, and it's about professional bodybuilders who kidnapped some guy who made his fortune off of, ripping off people. And the black guy complains to this one girl that's 260 pounds that for 10 years he did everything he was told and asked, and nobody seems to care or pay attention. Now that part is true. Most black men, not just me, but most black men feel like that when we wake up and we go to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, nobody sees us. Nobody likes us. Nobody respects us. Nobody gives us no credit for our hard work and dedication. They tell you need to put in work, so we put in 10 years of work into ourselves. So that part that he put in the movie, that actually is true. The black man whines and complains too much. That's right on the money, Michael Bay. The second thing that he put in there that's actually true is that when the black man gets rejected 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 times, that as a last desperate attempt, he will start to go to every single gym just so he can go after the fattest white woman he can go after because he's sexually frustrated, because he's been hammered to the point of desperation because he doesn't know what else to do. He's not used to it's 5 years later, it's 10 years later, oh, it's 15 years later, and he's between the ages of 30 to 35. He's not used to this. And why is it taking such a long time to get the more beautiful, attractive women? He's not used to that. He's not used to someone telling him it's going to take you almost 2 decades to do that when he constantly sees everyone else going out to lunch, taking women out to lunch and dinner, going on dates, holding hands and kissing, or at least for a cup of coffee. He's not used to seeing them do it on a shorter timetable, which the average time is 3 to 5 years, or the maximum's 10. But if you're a black man, you go past the maximum. Maximum is 100%. We go to 110%, an extra 10 years. So 10 plus 10 would be 20, right? So that'd be a total of 2 decades, 20 years that you're scratching your head trying to figure out what is going on here. So he's right on the money when it comes to that. Now the rest of that is just BS, because not every black man goes to Gold's Gym, Club Onyx, Club Bay, or 24-Hour Fitness trying to hit on a woman who puts on 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds of body fat, and she's between 200 to 260 pounds or 300 pounds. Not every black man does that. Now, the third stereotype is it's always a nerdy black guy that's a nerd. Well, that's all movies, all television. Not true whatsoever. Okay, you might see 2 or 3 guys that have glasses, but then there are times where I see BBW white women approach guys that play basketball, football, they're bodybuilders, they're weightlifters, they're personal trainers, they play sports. And they find guys who play basketball that are bigger, stronger, and faster, more physically, sexually attractive than the skinny, frail, unattractive, nerdy guy. I see that like about 60% of the time they prefer a guy that plays basketball or football or does bodybuilding or weightlifting than the small, skinny guy that has glasses. Now, do I find BBW white women physically, sexually attractive in the gym? Well, to ask the question, to get the answer to the question, is to ask the question to get the answer. I would say the answer is yes. Let me do what Daniel Bryan does in professional wrestling. Yes, 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 yes. Now, my reasons are not as the ones that I described based on stereotypes, okay? The reason why I explain the stereotypes is because there's a big old argument on the internet. For the past 15 years, there have been this big, huge debate that black men can't get the best looking white woman unless he's rich and famous. Which, that is true. I would say that's about 85 to 90% very accurate, that if that guy is not rich and famous, if that man does not have looks, money, and status, it's going to be close to impossible for him to get the most drop dead gorgeous, hottest, attractive white woman on the planet. Then there what they call the rule of the exception, where he's not rich and famous, he's not popular, but he eats his fruits and vegetables, he drinks lots of water, he goes to the gym 3 or 4 or 5 times a week, he might have 2 jobs, he might have 3 jobs, he makes just enough money, and it just so happens to be that the job he has is in a high class or middle class environment, and that might be how he gets beautiful, attractive white women of high quality. So there is the rule of the exception. So there are exceptions. It's not always you're rich and famous. That's also television and film. Now, my reasons would be a little different than that. Mine would just be, it's through my family genetics. I mean, seriously, junior high, high school, college, even at work. So naturally, I get white women that pack on 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds and be between 200 to 260, sometimes 300 pounds, they find me physically, sexually attractive. You know, they see me in the gym working out, they smile, they wink at me, and I try to just be nice and not be an asshole, because in the past, I've always told them, well, I like my women in athletic shape. And then, there goes the feminist ideology. Oh, you must hate big women. Oh, you must hate fat women. Then I get labeled as an asshole, a misogynist pig. You guys heard this stuff on the internet. You've seen other YouTubers make that type of video. That's what I get labeled as if I don't like fat white women, if I don't like fat Mexican women, if I don't like fat black women. Especially fat black women will label me the asshole and the misogynist, when they ain't never heard me open my mouth and directly answer the question, yes or no, I don't like you if you're fat. They just naturally assume it. And when it goes back to my last video, if you got a nasty personality, if you're rude and disrespectful and you're arrogant and you're narcissistic, then I'm not going to talk to you. If I think all you're trying to do is just get attention from people and don't want to take people's feelings in consideration, then I don't want to talk to you 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. If you accuse me as a misogynist pig because you think I say you're not my type, I don't want to talk to you. If I see you embarrass or humiliate or reject another man because you don't find him physically, sexually attractive, I don't want to deal with you. And the reason why I say that is because I have some standards. Now, some people ask, what about weight limit? What could be the smallest or what could be the biggest? For me, I don't discriminate. If you were just born fat, then I don't be like, oh, you were born fat, I can't talk to you. That's not how that works. If it's a situation where you got health problems and it might take you 5 years, it might take you 10 years, then usually I just try to handle it accordingly. So to me, I think the biggest I've ever dealt with was probably 230 to maybe 240 pounds when I was extremely desperate in junior high and high school. And then when I got into to become an adult, like 22, 23, 24, I got hit on by a girl that was 260 pounds. That's the biggest for me. Now, has there been something bigger than that in recent years? Yes, there has. Like 270, 280, 290. Usually that's when I start to kind of go, you're getting a little too big and I can't deal with that. And it's not that I don't have the strength and the power to not deal with it. It's just there's a limit. Even if someone says, what if the girl is between 210 to 230 or 240 and she has a bunch of tattoos? Again, I don't use the tattoos or the body piercings against women. If that's how you self-express yourself, more power to you. I don't say, oh, she got too many body piercings. Oh, she got too many tattoos. To me, I look at your personality. I look at your character. And if I like what I see, I like what I see. If I see that you're arrogant, you're narcissistic, and you love to hurt other people just to have the power and the control, then Houston, we have a problem. Because then people will accuse me of, oh, you just let her punk and bully anybody. And then, they'll say, stand up for yourself and fight back. So there's that misconception. I mean, I'm trying to explain the ones for black men first before we jump on to the stereotypes of big women, because I'm trying to explain what it is that black men go through so people can have a far better understanding of it. Oh, he likes her because she got a big butt and some big titties. That one is also accurately true. As black men, we do like women with big ass butts and big breasts. And if we see a big white woman that's 220 or 230 or 240 with big breasts and a big butt, we do get very happy and excited. That is very true and right on the money. Now, is the sex good? Well, now, if you're going off of movies and television shows, then that's the wrong interpretation. Sex, it's going to be just like my other YouTube video called Just Sex versus Great Sex. It all depends on the person. I've heard some men tell me that the sex is okay, it's alright, it ain't nothing to be bragging about to your friends at the basketball court. Then I have some guys that are chubby chasers who told me it blew their mind. It was the best experience in the whole world. Now let's drop another stereotype. If you like white women that are 200 pounds or 300 pounds or 400 pounds, you're low value. Okay, let's take that. The problem with them saying that if you like fat white women that are 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 400 pounds, is like this. If you live in a high class or middle class environment and you make anywhere from 20 to like 50 or $60,000, you won't have no problem getting beautiful white women that you find physically, sexually attractive 85 to 90% of the time, majority wise. Now, if you are someone that's low class, or you're average or below average, and you make average or below average money, and you've tried for the past 5 or 10 or 15 years to try to get 8s, 9s, and 10s, and every time you talk to a woman, it's, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in you, I'm not your type. I like basketball players, I like football players, I like athletes, or I like guys that are in athletic shape, or I just like guys that are on a higher level. You're a nice guy and you get put in the friend zone a lot, yeah, that's going to be a problem. See, they always leave out black men who do that get put in the friend zone. They date all the black women and they get rejected. Then they talk to the white women, they get rejected. They try to talk to Mexican women that are skinny and athletic shape. So they always leave out, they got put in the friend zone. They leave that out. They always leave out, he doesn't make enough money. So they leave that out. So if you're, and you see, that comes from red pill. You get a lot of pickup artists and dating coaches who say it, who are stupid and delusional. They watch too much television, too many Hollywood movies, and just make up stuff, because that's what pickup artists and dating coaches do to make you come to their 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour seminar, because they don't have nothing else better to do but try to make you buy their books and their DVDs that are worthless. And 90% of the time, that stuff doesn't even help you physically, sexually attract the women you want in the first place. They just want to make a nice, good $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 off of someone's pain and suffering. That's all they care about. Then you have the wannabe pickup artist, the wannabe dating coach who says that, but they don't do the math and the science. They don't do the numbers. Not in every single city and state it's the same stereotype. Here in Los Angeles, California, it's 50-50. 50% of the time you might see a black man that plays basketball, football, or is a bodybuilder or a weightlifter or a personal trainer try to go after women that are between the height of 4'11" to 5'7", and the complaint that the bodybuilders and the weightlifters and the basketball and football players get is that they're too big, they're too athletic, and the girl is like skinny as a stick or a toothpick, and he might break her sexually in the bed. So he gets the bodybuilders and the weightlifters, they get stereotyped. And then the girl dumps the guy because the guy's too damn big, and then that guy gets rejected because he thought that if he became a bodybuilder or a weightlifter, that would help him get all the skinny chicks. And when he saw that failed and it doesn't work and all he getting is big women, now he's upset because he'd have spent 10 years investing his money and going to the gym, that now he's been stereotyped as this bodybuilder or weightlifter, that the only kind of girl he can get are big women. So they always leave that out on purpose. The other 50% is you just don't make enough money economic-wise for you to even be trying to date high-quality women. You can't date women like Jennifer Lopez or Scarlett Johansson or Charlize Theron or who's the baddest chick right now that every black man would get if they had the money? Megan Good and Lori in London, right? If you're not rich and famous and you're a black man, you ain't gonna get Lori in London. You ain't gonna get Megan Good. You ain't gonna get Alexander Shipp. You saw her in the movie Straight Outta Compton, right? That other black chick who was in Creed and Creed 2 as Creed's wife. If you can't even get her, then that's a problem. So 50% of the time, bodybuilders, weightlifters, and personal trainers and basketball and football players, 50% of the time they get stereotyped that the only woman they can get is a big woman because they're too athletic. We want women that's between the height of 4'11" to 5'7", and then the complaint is you're too big, you're too buff, and I can't do what a man is too big and too buff. And then you get rejected 10, 15, 20 times. The other 50% is if you just don't make enough money economic-wise, and you're not working in a high class or middle class environment, then you got a problem, because then you are forced to date those types of women because you're not playing professional basketball, you're not playing professional football or professional baseball for you to date higher quality women. But if you're making between $20 to $50 or $60,000 by the luck of chance that you are in a high class or middle class environment, then you're what they call the rule of the exception. This is information that gets left out intentionally on purpose because they don't want you to know this information, because they think you're going to try to use this as an easy scapegoat to justify, that's why I want fat white women that are 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 400 pounds, when the reality is that's not true. What it is you got put in a situation where that's all you can get that's available. If you could get better, you wouldn't be doing it. Like, it's the same thing when I say you self-improve, right? I always will say there are cases, there are stories, there are times where a man does self-improvement, and for whatever reasons, explained or not explained, he decides he wants to gravitate towards a fat white woman. And usually he will be between the ages of 30 to 35 years old, and people will be like, he's a handsome man, that's in athletic shape, why is he lowering his standards? Did it ever occur to you that guy got rejected 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 times? He been trying that for 10 years, 15 years, and it hasn't been working? Like, to me, it's like this. Some men can date super hot, attractive women. My bad. Some men can date super hot, attractive women no matter what their age is. And then you have some men, unfortunately, no matter what they try, they're just destined to just be with one group of women, and it just happens to be big women. Now, even if a guy could date a super hot, attractive woman, then that goes under another stereotype. Now let's get to why I say the stereotype of big women, or Do all big women are masculine? No. You got some women that are feminine. Now you have with them it's like 50-50. Because everyone goes off the movies and the television shows, right? Now, if for some reason you get a man who approaches fat white women in the gym and he takes her out to lunch and dinner or for a cup of coffee, people automatically assume sex is involved. I would say about a very good 65, maybe 70% of the time, sex can be involved. I've seen some guys get rejected by plus size women. Either because that woman just did not find that man physically, sexually attractive. And if you can argue movies, television, and social media play a strong role, I'll agree with you. Movies, television, and social media is a big part of the problem, and it does play into it. And then you have what Matt Cross refers to as a 49er. She's a 4 that thinks she's a 9. So you got a case where some women think they're Jennifer Lopez, but they're the 300-pound version or 400-pound version of Jennifer Lopez. You have that too, where she thinks she's too good to talk. She's fat, but she's too good to talk to you. Now, have I ever had some white women look at me like they would never talk to me? I would probably say maybe once, maybe 2 or 3 occasions they would look at me like, you're okay, you alright, you're not my type. And then some 65% of the time I had some that look at me like I'm a Hershey's chocolate candy bar. So for me, it's a better experience. Where it's for another black man, it's a terrible experience. So that's why I say you can't go off of movies and television. But do black men like fat white women that got big breasts and a big butt? The answer is yes. If you get rejected 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or 100 times, and you've been trying for 10 years, hold on, we got a helicopter. You've been trying 10, 15, you've been trying for 10 years, you've been trying for 15 years, and nothing seems to be working. You're not just going to sit around and wait until the inevitable happens. Now, that's why I say it. For me, it's a good experience. Now, for other black men, they get rejected. It's not always he's a nerd, okay? That's what I want you to understand. It's not always, it's the nerds. It's the social rejects, the guys that can't never get the good-looking chicks. A lot of times, you're going to see these women chase after basketball players, football players, bodybuilders, weightlifters, personal trainers. Because what I just told you, a lot of the black men who turn themselves into bodybuilders, weightlifters, they think that's going to help them get the girl that's 4'11" to 5'7", and when it's 10 years later or 15 years later, and they find out that they wasted all that money and time doing it, and they get the complete opposite, that guy's been stereotyped. When you get rejected by a girl that's 4'11" to 5'7", and she go, you're too big, you're too buff, and then you keep getting rejected over and over and over, you gonna start contemplating going after a woman who is 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds of body fat that's between 200 to 260 pounds, sometimes 300 or 400 plus pounds. And people be making it seem like the bodybuilders like these type of women. The bodybuilders and the weightlifters don't really want to be with these women, but what I just said, they've been stereotyped. And when people keep looking at movies and television shows and that's all they think of you, then that's a problem. Someone might say, why don't you lose weight? I've seen guys who have that nice lean look and they still get hit on by a white woman who's 220, 230, 240, 250, 260, and they don't get stereotyped, and every now and then it's a case of back and forth. Like he dates the big girl, but then he still wants the girl that's 4'11", that's between 4'11" to 5'7". He still wants the girl that's in athletic shape, that's between 90 to 130 pounds. So he still wants the hot, attractive girl that's in athletic shape. But he goes back and forth, back and forth. And then he gets stereotyped as the bad boy. He gets stereotyped as the player because he keeps going back and forth. So you see how I'm naming out all the scenarios in this equation? So you could say, as of right now, when people say big women are easy to get with, only if you're physically sexually attractive, scoring with women that are 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 400 pounds is easy. Now, if you're the average or below average men and they approach you, then it could be a situation where the big girl just wants to date someone. Can't always use movies and television show as real life perception. The reason why I brought in Pain and Gain is that the only two things in that movie that's real is the fact that most black men whine and complain too much, that they put in the most work, and then they don't get the attention. And then it'd be 10 years later, it'd be 15 years later, it'd be 20 years later, and then when you see a handsome, good-looking black man date a fat white woman, then people go, how come he handsome and good-looking but can't get a woman to his looks match? Because every time he dates a woman of his looks match, she wants somebody that's an 8, a 9, or a 10. So you could be a 6 or a 7 and be told you're not good looking. You could be an 8 and get told by a girl that's an 8 you're not good looking. And then you go after women who is probably a 3, a 4, or a 5 because you keep getting rejected. See, this is information they leave out intentionally on purpose. 50% of the time, you get stereotyped out because you're too athletic. The other half of it is if you're not working in a high class or middle class environment, and if you ride the bus or the train, ain't nobody going to accept a man that rides the bus and the train. They want you to have a car. So your dating options are going to be very limited, and it ain't until you self-improve or you get a passport or you become rich and famous that you can change your dating options. See, that's also information that gets left out intentionally on purpose. So when you do see the bodybuilder or the weightlifter in the gym date the big white woman, it ain't because he's desperate. It's mostly because he keeps being stereotyped because people keep saying, I saw this in a movie, I saw this in the television show, or I saw this in porn, and then the black guy gets mad because you're basing all of those experiences from movies, television, and entertainment, and you're not looking outside the box, and you're not looking at the math and the science. And then people will say, well, black man is so desperate, he resorted to that. Okay, there's resorting to desperation times 10. The only time you can throw in desperation as the number one reason is if it gets to a point where that's the only type of female for him to go after. Then at 99.99%, you can most definitely say right off the bat that black man is so desperate that he chose the biggest, fattest white woman he could find. But if